Hi everyone, it's me, Sailor Moon, and me, Tuxedo Mask, Evening Wear Hide, here. And today, folks are going to ask us, what was the lawmaking setup of the Moon Kingdom and the Earth Kingdom? Now, in Sailor Moon, there were two kingdoms. The Moon, which had its own kingdom, and the Earth, which had its own kingdom, because at one time the Earth was one kingdom, and so was the Moon. Now, in Sailor Moon, it doesn't quite go in to talk about how everything was set up. It doesn't talk about there was a Winnemote. It does talk about them being queen keepers and law keepers and the sailor fighters, which I guess were the main arm of the land might, I guess. And it doesn't say if Queen Serenity was the head of Reich and the head of LAWMOOT, but I would believe most likely she was both. I don't know. To tell you the truth, it never comes up of how the Moon Kingdom worked as a land. Now I know that someone out there has most likely come up with some kind of saga and tale themselves and came up with how all this shit worked, but they didn't really bring it up. And I know someone is going to talk about the books, but then the books themselves doesn't go into the lawmaking and the runnings of the LAWMOOT of how the Moon Kingdom was ran and how the Earth Kingdom was ran. And then they say that at least they don't say. So your guess is good as mine on that one. A lot of folks also bring up and say, well, what started the war between both lands? Well, Queen Beryl was the one who had sadly fell underneath the sleigh of Queen Metallia and had brainwashed everyone on Earth into believing that the moon was the Earth's foe. Well, that wasn't true, but that's what they believed. And why Queen Beryl took the rank of queen, we'll never know. Now, there's a little back saga. It doesn't really come up all that much, but in Sailor Moon they said that Queen Beryl had fallen in love with Darien, but Darien was in love with me, and that anger is what led her to go to Queen Metalia's side and start the war between the Moon and the Earth, which ended the Moon Kingdom. You know, and to be earnest with you, I could go on and tell you a little bit about how I think things worked, because I was there. Yes, we did have a first Wicker. Yes, that would have been Aldeling Earth, who was the top leader of the sailor fighters, but also was the first Wicker of the Moon Kingdom. Now, beyond that, if we did have a Winnemote, it never really came up. You're right, Sailor Moon. I mean, it's unknown how the Moon Kingdom itself was ran. Was it a kingdom folkreich? I guess it was. I don't know. As far as how the Earth Kingdom was handled, no one really seems to know. There isn't really any talk about it beyond that, okay, there was an Earth Kingdom, and then I was Aldeling Darien, or Aldeling Endymion, whatever you want to call me, and that I had, knights that were entrusted to watch over me, and shield the Earth Kingdom, that being Jadeite, Nephlite, Zoisite, and Milkite. And that being Goldar, Scorpina, Rita, and Zed. Now, beyond that, there isn't all that much to talk about. And I know someone's going to say, well, didn't they shift the names around? Yeah, instead of Jade, it was Jed. So you're right, yeah. But we don't know what the headstead of the Earth Kingdom was, who lorded over the Earth Kingdom, Sailor Earth, Aldeling Earth was from Earth, so most likely it was his world that he lorded from. And I lorded from that world too, huh? But beyond that, we don't know. And no, I don't really think that any telling of Sailor Moon doesn't really go into the whole law-making end of how the Earth Kingdom worked or how the Moon Kingdom worked. It doesn't. You know, someone could come up with a whole saga and tell themselves about that, and their guess would be as good as mine. So at the end of the day, I don't know how that worked. I can give you a guess, of how it worked. We may have had a first Wicker. We may have had a Winnemote. But as how it ran, your guess is good as mine. So that's my, thoughts there. Yeah, well, you're right there, Tuxedo Mask. You're right there, Darian. Evening Wear Hide. I guess we'll never truly know the lawmaking or how the LAWMOOT or the kingly LAWMOOT of the Earth Kingdom and the Moon Kingdom worked. Or if they had first Wickers or had a Wintermote or whatever. But we at least know that they did have a landmite. We do know that. The Moon Kingdom did have queen keepers, and there was also the sailor fighters. And we do know that the Earth Kingdom had their own knights, but beyond that, we don't know much beyond those things. So your guess is good as mine. Anyway, give this film a like, share and playlist it, and we'll see you later.